GMs for Hire.
Welcome back to another episode of GMs for Hire. I am Jamil, and with me is RJ, and today we're continuing our coverage of the NFL, breaking down all the divisions, and today we are talking about the NFC East, or as some would call it, the NFC Least. We are talking about a division that wasn't, the best last season. We're talking about the Washington football team, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Giants, and the Philadelphia Eagles. This season, there's eyes on a couple of teams. A couple of teams made improvements. A couple of teams, people are looking at making the playoffs, and then another team, we don't know what they're going to be with a couple of different question marks. So we're going to break down all those teams. RJ, how do you feel about this division?
How does anybody feel about this division? This is last year. It was the NFC least. You hit that one on the head. Obviously, injuries played a role in that. Things happen. I get it. But this division, it was down. But the teams did get better. I think 3 out of the 4 teams got better. And maybe all four teams improved on something. So I would like to think that this division won't be NFC least. It won't be 1 o'clock Fox. It'll be, 425, maybe a couple Sunday night games in there. I would like to think that they'll get back to what they should be. But if last year's any indication, it's a tough one.
Yeah, maybe last year was just COVID. Maybe we can just blame it on COVID. But to get right into it, let's just lead off with the team that everybody's talking about that is looking to take that next step, and that's the Washington football team. This is a team that last season made the playoffs. They have an absolutely stellar defense, but they had inconsistency at quarterback, but they still found their way into the playoffs. This season, they look to fix that. I thought they were going to go after, a really, really big gun, maybe try to do something crazy, but instead they go with journeyman Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that's no knock on him because Ryan Fitzpatrick has had his moments. He's been good at plenty of times, but now this is probably the first time in his career he signed to be the starter. Maybe the second time. He signed that extension with Buffalo back a couple decades ago, at least at this point. Yeah. But now he is the true number one right now. Maybe for the first time in a long time, he doesn't have a target. He is the guy, and he can be comfortable and settle in and say, this is my team. I'm going to take the reins. And to take the reins, he's a lot of talent. In the backfield, you have Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissic. On the outside, you got scary Terry McLaurin. You signed Curtis Samuel, who's been banged up, so we don't know when he's going to be able to play. You bring in Adam Humphries. You draft your boy Dwami Brown. There's a lot of talent on this offense. So, RJ, talk to me about this Washington offense. How do you like it? Because I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Last year, their defense definitely carried them into the playoffs. But I think now they have an offense that can actually compete and actually score points and can win them some football games. Now, you mentioned Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm very interested to see who Ryan Fitzpatrick is when he's the starter, because the last couple stops he's had to look over his shoulder, whether it was Tua, whether it was Jameis with the suspension that year and all that. He's always had to look over his shoulder and wonder, am I going to start next week? Am I still the guy? Am I about to get benched if I throw another interception? So now, look, Taylor Heineke played well in the wild card game, but I don't think he's a true threat to unseat Ryan Fitzpatrick as number one QB1 in Washington. So I think Ryan Fitzpatrick should come into this season with more confidence, knowing I'm the guy. They went out and got me because they wanted stability at the quarterback position, and that's got to feel good. Miami went and signed him just so they had another guy, so they didn't have to throw Tua in right away. The Bucs went and got him because they weren't sure what Jameis's legal situation was going to be like. So this is a different situation. I want to see what he does with it. You mentioned the talent they've got on that offense. Everybody knows about the defense, but I don't think everybody knows about that offense. Antonio Gibson was quietly one of the best running backs in the NFL last season. J.D. McKissic he's a very solid number 2, and he's got some boys to throw the ball to. You mentioned they drafted my boy Dwami Brown. I think he is a stud. If they use him, if he's on the field, he will produce. I think he's that good. To go out and get Adam Humphries and Curtis Samuel. Ron Rivera knows Curtis Samuel. He'll probably use him a little more in Washington than he did in Carolina. And that's all complimenting Terry McLaurin, who is, we mentioned in one of our previous videos how DJ Moore is very underrated. Terry McLaurin might be the most underrated wide receiver in the entire NFL. So Washington is fine on defense, but this offense can be special.
Yeah, definitely. Again, they're deep on offense too. They have guys we even talk about. They got Logan Thomas and their backups. They got Steven Sims. He's a pretty good backup. They got Cam Sims. They got Antonio Gandy Golden. They have other guys too in the back. In case people get hurt, they're pretty protected. This offensive line isn't too bad either, led by Brandon Sheriff. That this offense can go, and I think they're very overshadowed by that defense, but for good reason. This defense can go too. Led by Chase Young on the outside. They're phenomenal in the interior D line as well. Their one weak spot was linebacker, and they used a first round pick and got Jevin Davis out of Kentucky. A linebacker that can fly. Landy Collins comes back at safety. So this team can go William Jackson at corner. He's next to Kendall Fuller. This defense is very, very, very good. And I think that this team is expected to make the next step. And I think they can. If they can get Ryan Fitzpatrick as a stable quarterback, I can definitely see this team taking that next step.
Yeah, they gotta. So Ryan Fitzpatrick's career has been, he has a good game and then he'll have a bad game and then he'll have a good game and then he'll have a bad game. When he has a good game, you have to win all of those games. You got to take advantage on those days where he's good. You got to take advantage when he's Fitz magic. When he's Fitz tragic, you're going to have to take those. That's hopefully your defense can step up and win the game for you. And you mentioned they're talented enough to do it. This defensive line could go down as one of the meanest and one of the greatest of all time. I think Chase Young is going to cement himself as one of the best pass rushers in the NFL already, if he already hasn't. I think he could win Defensive Player of the Year this year. I think the dude's just a freak. I use freak quite a bit, but Chase Young is
Chase Young definitely gives me Myles Garrett
with a capital
vibes.
F.
He definitely gives me Myles Garrett vibes where he can be just an absolutely wreck to offenses.
And you mentioned how good that defense was last year. They go and get the linebacker from Kentucky. Landon Collins is there. This defense on paper should take a step forward and be a little better. This offense should take a big step forward. Man, Washington's going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this team, I think they should be the favorites from the division because, the other teams we're talking about, they're all good. They all improved. But if Washington hits their true ceiling, I think it's higher than the likes of the Cowboys and the Giants and the Eagles. So I'd be interested to see if Washington, the football team, maybe this is the last year they go unnameless as the football team. Let's see if they go out with a bang and take home a division title. But to keep it pushing in this division, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. This is a team, America's team, that's going to have a lot of expectations. Last season, a lot of people talk about Dak Prescott went down, the season ended. But if I'm going to be honest with you, the season never really began with Dak Prescott. Yes, your offense put up a lot of numbers, but you still had a losing record at the time of his injury. I'm not saying that the season definitely ended after that. But even when he was there, you still struggled to put up wins. So let's talk about that. RJ, how do you feel about that for the season for the Cowboys?
Their defense is atrocious. It's very bad. They went out and spent some draft picks. I think Micah Parsons is a stud. Hopefully he performs well for the Cowboys. But this team has holes. Yeah, Dak going down last year was not the problem. You mentioned they had a losing record. He's got so many weapons. He's got so much talent on that offense. If Dak is healthy this year, watch out, which that's been a problem. Dak's health is a huge question mark, I think. If he's healthy, though, this team is going to put up points. They're going to put up a lot of points with the receivers they have, and they got a lot of fire under Zeke. Zeke has not been Zeke. He's been Ezekiel Elliott, just some guy. He has not been Zeke. So he's got they need a lot of fire under him. You better hope Dak is healthy. He's got the talent at receiver, but that defense, I don't think it can be much worse than it was last year, but they've got to improve. Because if they don't improve, I don't care if Dak's healthy or not, this team isn't going to win many football games, and they're not even going to have a shot at the division.
Yeah, on the defensive end, they go and get Micah Parsons in the first round, and they've invested a lot in that linebacker group. Talking about him, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. Those are three really good linebackers that you've invested heavily in. But where else is the production going to come from? You need DeMarcus Lawrence to live up to that contract that you got him. He's the only reliable pass rusher right now, and he hasn't been the same guy that he was since before he got paid. Before he got paid, he was absolutely one of the best DNs in the game. Now he's just a regular defensive end, it seems like. But if he can have a bounce back season, this team's also transitioning back to that 4-3 defense. So we'll see if he can be that guy off the edge. Obviously, in the secondary, the corners, everybody thought they were going to get Patrick Surtain. They ended up not getting him because the Panthers get Jace Horn first. The Broncos shock everybody, and they go in and get Patrick Surtain to lock up the outside as well for them. So we'll see if rookie Calvin Joseph, if he can come in and be that speedster corner that they need to have another guy step up on the outside. But like you mentioned, I think it all starts into this defense because the offense can go. They have one of the top 5 receiving cores in the game with Gallup, Lamb, and Cooper. And Ezekiel Elliott has his worst season last year. He slimmed down. He should be able to bounce back. Tony Pollard's a great backup / 1B guy. He showed last year he can really go. So the offense should have no problems with that healthy, but the defense is going to have to get stops and get off the field for this team to be successful.
Yeah, no, I agree with Tony Pollard being 1B and not 2 because he's been very productive when he's been in the game. I think this year we're going to see CeeDee Lamb explode. I think that guy is just a stud. I think he was the best receiver in the draft a couple years ago. I think Dallas is really going to show he's a stud. He is next as far as, Julio's towards the end of his career. DeAndre Hopkins a little older. Larry Fitzgerald's out of the league. I mean, there's going to be a changing of the guard at the wide receiver position here within the next few years. And I think CeeDee Lamb is going to say, hey, I'm going to be the number 1 guy now because I think he absolutely can be the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I could definitely see a big breakout for him this season. I do think he was the best receiver in his draft class, and he fell for reasons we don't really know, but he decided to. Other receivers were ahead of him, but he proved, I think, that he was the best receiver in that class last season. And you mentioned this defense that, it needs help. They're going to be tested a lot this season. They get Justin Herbert, they get Tom Brady, they get the rest of their own division, with Washington. We'll see if Fitzpatrick can be that guy. They play the Cardinals, they play the Chiefs. So they're definitely going to get tested this season. So we'll see what they can do. But I think we both agree this defense is going to have to step up for them to get to where they want to be. Another team in this division that improved, and I think they have a lot of expectations for themselves, and they have a lot of expectations for a particular player on their team, because if he doesn't produce, his time is going to be up and the head man could be up, and that's the New York Giants. Joe Judge, it's time to shut up. It's time for him to put up some wins in New York. And Daniel Jones, it's definitely his time to prove if he's the franchise quarterback or not, because this is a team that went out this offseason. They also got draft capital for next season. So if Daniel Jones is not the guy, this team can go and get a Deshaun Watson. They can trade up and get whatever quarterback they want if they finish with not a worse enough record to get into one of those top slots. But they went out and they got him all the help needed. Like you mentioned with Sam Darnold in our previous video, there's no more excuses. You have the help. You got to show us what you can do. And for Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley is back. They go out and they spin. They haven't had that big name receiver since Odell Beckham was traded. They go and get Kenny Galladay. They draft Kadarius Toney. They still have Everett Ingram. They still have Sterling Shepard. They still have Darius Slayton. There's a lot of different options for him to go to on this offense. And now is the time for him to show that he is a franchise quarterback, or he might be on his way out of New York.
Absolutely. I think this is what, his 3rd, 4th year, something like that. It's definitely time. It's definitely time. He's got to show it, especially in New York. They're not very patient. They're going to run him and Joe Judge and probably Dave Gettleman out of town too. Which sorry for Dave Gettleman, but those guys could definitely all be on their way out. You mentioned they actually sneaky. They have some weapons on that offense. Saquon obviously is the big one coming back from the injury. But you mentioned Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram. Like this team, they're going to have the guys for him to throw to. Can he get it to him? The defense, it's whatever. It's not awful, but it's not great either. It's not Dallas, but it's not Washington. It falls somewhere in the middle. But all the pressure, all the focus is on Daniel Jones this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, on defense, they made a couple moves I liked. They went and got Adoree Jackson to play second corner next to James Bradbury. I think now they have a true second corner. Leonard Williams had a phenomenal season last year, and he's going to come back. And they get Azeez Ojulari in the draft to pair with him on the line. That could be very, very dangerous. And we'll see if Dexter Lawrence can get into his bag and become a really big part of that defensive line as well. But this is definitely a team that definitely has pieces to improve, and they need to improve because, in New York with that market, you're always under the hot seat. And Joe Judge, people already didn't like the hire to begin with, but now he's got to definitely get some wins, or him and Daniel Jones as a package and Dave Gettleman, they could all be on their way out because they got to put up some wins. They had this flashy offseason. Now they've had time to develop, and now you got to show the product and you have to show improvement.
Yeah, no, I agree. They could, if they don't perform this year, they could just decide to start over. Because again, they've got the weapons, they've got a good defense. You got to find a quarterback, and if you're not in position to get one of the top 2 guys, if you don't have a top 5 pick or something like that, you're gonna have to get very aggressive. and it's going to be on whoever the new GM and coach and ownership. They're going to have to all work together, but they're going to have to figure out that quarterback position, because now the Giants sneakily, they're one of those teams that are a quarterback away from, hey, that's a playoff team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I definitely think this front office knew what they were doing when they were doing all these moves. They made a couple of shrewd moves to the draft in the offseason. I think as a front office, they were saying, like, we have a team right here that can compete and be good, but if they don't, we have the ability to go out and get an impact quarterback if we want to. And, I think that's a great position to be in, where you have a good, stable team and you need that quarterback to be great. And if he doesn't, you have the ability to go out and get a game changer. They have a couple of, difficult games on their schedule too. They got to deal with the Saints, the Bucks, the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Chargers, their division games. So it's not going to be an easy road to get there nonetheless. So we'll see if this Giants team truly did improve. But to round out this division, let's hit the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a team that, oh my, how the mighty have fallen. This is just a team that not too long ago won a Super Bowl. And now Nick Foles and Carson Wentz are no longer there. The guys that got you the Super Bowl. Now it's the Jalen Hurts era. And this is something that a lot of people were maybe skeptical about. When they picked him last year, people were shocked in the second round. But now he ended the season as the starter, and this season he's going to go in as a full-time starter. Carson Wentz is traded. He's in Indianapolis now. That era is dead and gone. Now can Jalen Hurts be that guy? I know me and you were big college football people. We talked about Jalen Hurts, incredible athlete, incredible leader, one of the best we've ever seen in college. But his inconsistency in the passing game was probably what derailed Oklahoma. And it was clear and obvious that the offense was different the way Lincoln Riley was running it there. So what can he do with the NFL here? The Eagles for the longest have had struggled to get consistent receivers on the field. Last year they picked Jalen Reagor famously over Justin Jefferson, and that has not worked so far. Year two, we'll see what he can do. I love them at TCU, but his consistency last year was bad. He was hurt, so we'll see if he can bounce back this season. They go and get Heisman winner Devontae Smith from Alabama. We'll see if he can be that guy over here in the NFL. They're trying to help him out. Miles Sanders is still at running back. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz still tremendous at tight end, but can Jalen Hurts lead the offense through the air?
Yeah, again, I think it's kind of been rinse repeat with a lot of these teams. Like, the weapons are around you. The question is with the quarterback position. But this is different. And you mentioned, me and you love college football, and Lincoln Riley, what he's doing at Oklahoma is unreal. Oklahoma is disgusting every year, with Baker and Kyler and now Spencer Rattler. But that was a little hiccup in there, and that was Jalen Hurts. And I said it when he was in college. I just don't think that Jalen Hurts can throw a football. He did perform well last year in the NFL, better than I thought he would perform. I mean, I honestly thought he would come in and struggle. I don't want to see him struggle, because you mentioned he is a great leader. He went through a lot in college, getting replaced, transfer, and doing all this. He seems like a great guy, but I just question, can he throw a football? Let's not forget, he has a new head coach. The Philadelphia Eagles,
I didn't even mention that.
Bro, Doug Peterson was a huge part of why they won that Super Bowl. He might be the reason they won that Super Bowl. And now he's out of town. He doesn't even have a coaching job right now. He's taking the year off, I think. But this team, there was no reason, in my opinion, to get rid of him. So they're going to have to work with that. I know I said similar things in our college video about, Auburn getting rid of Gus Malzahn. I think it's similar with Philly getting rid of Doug Peterson. I think Doug Peterson's a good coach. I don't think there was any reason for them to get rid of him. It was egos. Him and the owner did not see eye to eye on everything. They probably had different visions for who was going to play quarterback. And things didn't work out. But Jalen Hurts, he's going to have a new quarterback or a new coach now to work with him. You mentioned they go and get Devontae Smith. This team has not had receivers. It has been a struggle to get some receivers. Jalen Reagor, obviously, we'll have to see it in year two. It sucks that he's getting compared to Justin Jefferson. They took you over him. So if you don't ball, you're a bust, because he's balling. So it's kind of unfair, but that's the NFL. Devontae Smith, there were questions about his size. Dude's a stud. I think Devontae Smith will translate perfectly to the NFL. I think he'll be fine. Yeah, he's skinny. Yeah, he's small. But if you're going to injure him, you got to catch him first. So I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what the offense looks like with Nick Sirianni, coming over to be the new head coach. And I agree with you. I thought Doug Peterson was going to get snatched up real quick. I thought that's who the Jets were going to get before they got Robert Saleh. Saleh was still a good signing, but I was surprised Peterson didn't land. But now next season, if he wants to coach, he's going to have his pick of the litter. Maybe the Giants. They go back to a division rival, a team we just talked about. But he's definitely going to be a good coach next season for another team, I think. But on the defensive end, this is a team that struggled a little bit too. They had in the past and very, very stout. They're getting a little bit older though. They still have Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. The trade for Darius Slay last season, they definitely need him to continue to be the guy they thought they traded for, the guy he was with the Detroit Lions. But this is a team that, I'm having a hard time seeing how they land because Jalen Hurts, while, he may struggle to throw the ball, he's so electric running the ball that he's going to give you a chance to score points on any given drive. It's just, if you get into those passing situations, that's where you're going to struggle. But I'm looking at their schedule and they have some winnable games. They start off kind of tough. The Falcons that's up in the air, but then you got the Niners, the Cowboys, the Chiefs. That's tough. But then in the middle, they get like the Raiders and the Lions. They get the Broncos, the Jets later on. Like those are winnable games. So this team, I think they're going to be Jacqueline Hyde all season. I think they're going to be hot and cold, and I'm struggling to see how they're going to end up.
I agree. I view the Eagles and the Giants the same exact way. I think this team could be really good, or they could be awful, and it could be time to start over at the quarterback position for Philly or everything for New York. I'll be interested to see. I think this division, honestly, it's going to be similar to what we saw last year. There's going to be weeks where this division looks really good. Then there's going to be weeks where it's like, oh my God, someone has to win that division. Like it's going to be a tough year, I think.
Well, the Eagles are also another team, they have a little bit of draft capital. So depending on what happens at the end of this season, they could go out and make some splash moves. This is another team that's going to have a lot of versatility because this is a team that doesn't expect to be in the bottom, especially when they just won a Super Bowl not that long ago. This is a team that expects to still be competing. Philadelphia, like New York, a hard market to play in, a market that demands excellence, a market that demands you to be good. So we'll see what Jalen Hurts can do with the scrutiny. I hope all the best for him, and we'll see what this Eagles team can do. I think me and you for this division overall, I expect the Redskins the Washington football team I expect them to take that jump and to still be the number one team in this division. And I think it's going to be a fight for that second spot between honestly the teams. Like we mentioned before, I think the Cowboys are the second best team right now, but with the way their defense is, they might not be. But right now I'm going to give them the edge, but I don't have the Giants that far off. I think if Daniel Jones can be a great quarterback, this team can be dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. If Daniel Jones is good, it's going to be similar to Carolina, I think. If Daniel Jones is good, this team's going to be good, and you might want to watch out.
Well, I agree with that, sure. And Saquon Barkley's back. I think that's big. I think people are overshadowing that. This dude was an absolute stud before he tore his ACL, and then he was doing it without a lot of help. No really great receivers, no really great quarterback, no really great anything. And now they added all these pieces around him. I think he could be primed to have a great season if he can stay healthy and if they manage him the right way. He can have a great bounce back season, potentially be a bounce back player of the year or comeback player of the year type of guy. But that's gonna do it for us with this division. Me and RJ agree it's gonna be the Washington football team taking it home, followed by either the Giants or the Cowboys, with the Eagles finishing last, but not necessarily going 2 and whatever the last red number is now since we had another week. But I think this is a team that we think can put up numbers potentially, but we're just worried about Jalen Hurts and if he can throw the ball. But that's not a team I necessarily think is going to be trash. They could potentially be a decent team as well. Their schedule lines up kind of favorably, so we'll see what the offense can do. But for that, I am Jamil. That was RJ. Thank you guys for watching and stay tapped into the channel for our future videos.